Whenever I play games with binary morality systems, the likes of Mass Effect, Fable 3, or Catherine, I always seem to pick the answers that I think the other characters want to hear. I want them to like me, to smile at me, and to give me positive feedback for picking the supposedly right or correct response. It's why I feel so guilty whenever I'm faced with a seemingly morally ambiguous choice, and my decision ends up causing others pain. It isn't until I've completed an entire playthrough as the quote-unquote good guy that I'm able to complete a second playthrough with a more devil-may-care attitude. While playing the first episode of Telltale Games' Game of Thrones series, I found myself following these very same tendencies. I'd watched Let's Plays of TTG's Walking Dead Seasons 1 and 2, as well as The Wolf Among Us, and therefore already knew what to expect in terms of gameplay mechanics. Yet, even with this prior knowledge, actually taking a hold of my PS3's controller and playing through a Telltale game myself for the first time was a jarring new experience. I could feel myself panicking both during action sequences and dialogue windows alike, and still winced every now and then whenever I saw Garrett or someone else die yet another violent death. But even through the panic, I rarely ever felt that it was an unpleasant experience. Instead, I felt myself becoming more thoroughly invested in the game's world than usual. Of course, I couldn't just not play the rest of the series after getting myself involved in the Forrester's affairs, so I basically played 1 to 2 episodes per day every day after that. Oddly enough, the more I played, the more I seemed to stray from my usual behavioral tendencies. The fact of the matter is, there will always be people who are mad at you, no matter what choice you make. Weighty conversations with people like Cersei or Ramsay admittedly used to stress me out, but by episode 4, I just didn't give a crap. I said what I wanted to every time, and shrugged whenever someone bitched at me about it afterwards. The time I repeatedly chose to stand up to Griff, even as my loved ones begged me to do the smart thing and stay down in the mud, still remains one of the highlights of my playthrough. I realize now that the game's whole point is that you can never choose the right answer. Furthermore, knowing that Ethan will always die in the first episode, regardless of whether you value brute force over diplomacy or diplomacy over brute force, only helps to drive that point home. In the end, I was happy with my decisions. If I was going to die no matter what, I'm glad that I permitted that thief to return to his family, that I put up a fight against Ramsay, and that I protected my sister without hesitation. In this way, I believe the game is asking you to consider what it is that you really value. Sure, you can cling to ideals of bravery or sound judgment, but the moment you accept that death is inevitable, you realize that the only thing that will remain after you're gone are the memories that live on in those who survive you. How it is you wish to be remembered can thus serve as a guide, even, and perhaps especially so, in the most dire of situations.